Hey guys, finally, welcome back for another video. Ooh, when I say I missed you guys, I mean it. I've missed making and uploading these videos. It's been probably a year and a half or more, and I missed it, and I'm honestly tired of hearing myself make excuses because they all sound lame. Other than the fact that obviously over the last year and a half, for those of you who have been following along and are my friends and stuff, you guys know I've been going through a major transitional life period. But take that out of the equation, and I'm still making excuses. Oh, my hair looks dumb. Oh, I don't have anywhere to film. I don't have a microphone. I decided to just shut up about all that and just start making the videos and considering them all to be a work in progress. We're kind of starting from ground zero here. So I've got no microphone. I've got some lights jerry-rigged up. And I'm going to try out in this video 3 different filming locations in this room. And I really would appreciate it if you guys could give me some feedback. So this video is kind of like an experiment, but also a video. I'm totally going to give you guys a list of books I've been reading, and we're going to chat about them. But also, please give me a little feedback. Can you hear me okay? How's the lighting, and what do you think of the angle? So I'm going to try a few out. This is obviously number 1. Let me know what you think. I'm dying for some honest feedback, okay? So without further ado, let's start the actual video. And I can't wait to talk to you guys about these books. Okay, so what we're going to talk about today is, I mentioned I have been on hiatus. I have not been uploading videos for a year and a half or a little more, okay? So I'm not going to talk to you guys at all about 2025 because I'm going to make year-end content for this year. I'm going to do a wrap-up, maybe a top 10, and I will tell you guys about everything I've been reading this year because I had a great reading year. What I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to catch you up on about midway through 2023 because that's when I disappeared up until the end of 2024. And I read so many good books, and it was really fun to go through my Goodreads and kind of highlight the ones that I wanted to talk about. There's going to be a lot of books I loved that didn't make this list, but the list I am going to show you guys today are books that I would recommend to others. I would probably reread them and are going to probably end up on some sort of top 10 list for me. And by list, I just mean in my brain. I'm a list maker, okay? But I loved these books. So I'm going to jump right into it and start showing you some of the best things I read while I was away. I'm going to start with one that I have been wanting to read, if I'm being honest with you, my entire life, because this was my mom's favorite book. So she always had a copy of it either on a shelf or out around the house because she was reading it again. Every several years she would do that. But I never read it, and I've never seen the movie, which is crazy to me. But it is Gone with the Wind, which is, I suppose, a somewhat controversial book, but I'm not even getting into that because I simply don't care. I loved this book. I loved my whole experience reading it. It was very emotional and very raw because I was reading this as my mom was actively passing away. And so I had a lot of just regrets. Like, why didn't I get to this sooner so that we could have really talked about it? Because there's a lot to talk about in this book. I'm not going to do a full review of each of these books because there's a bunch of them. And I read them so long ago that a lot of the specifics are just kind of fuzzy at this point. But here's what I remember from this book. It made me cry. It made me laugh. It made me so frustrated and angry, but more than anything, it's just a beautiful story that I think pretty much anyone could enjoy and get benefit from experiencing. I will definitely read this again, and I understand why it was one of my mom's favorite books. I went back and did a little bit of homework before I made this video, and it turns out that I did talk about this one in a video, but it was books I was looking forward to reading. It was in my mid-year freakout. I will go ahead and tag that here so you can kind of see where we left off. I did a mid-year freakout in June or July of 2023, and then it was kind of like from then on out. But anyway, I mentioned this book in that mid-year freakout, and it was a book that I was really looking forward to reading. And I said, every time someone finds out I haven't read this book, they're like, oh my gosh. And then they tell me what a good experience they had with it. And then they always say the same thing. I just don't know why it took me so long to read this book, okay? Pillars of the Earth by Ken Follett. I can't believe, so now I'm like a super fan, okay? I've read this book and all the rest of them. I'm a super fan. And I'm like, I can't believe I've never really talked about any of these books in a video before because I've been gone. But we have to talk about Pillars of the Earth, okay? This is historical fiction. And to me, now given, I've only dabbled with historical fiction. It is one of my favorite genres, I would say, but I've only really been reading it for a couple of years, and so I'm scratching the surface only. But at this point, this is definitely, to me, in my mind, like the quintessential historical fiction book. If somebody wants to dabble with historical fiction, and maybe they've only read fantasy, or, you know, sci-fi, kind of our normal bag, okay? This is where you should start. It is phenomenal. Now, when this book was pitched to me, it's about like medieval architecture and monks and stuff. And I'm thinking, that sounds riveting, okay? A 1,000-page book about medieval architecture, building a cathedral, okay? It sounds boring. It is not. And it makes sense. Ken Follett, before he started this historical fiction series, he was known for writing spy thrillers, okay? So it has the pacing. He has the experience of writing like really action-packed, well-paced books. And this, he took those skills and injected it into this massive historical fiction tome. And guys, there's not a dull moment. It has some of the most memorable characters you will ever read. It has some of the baddest bad guys that will make you like seethe with rage. And it's just such a good story. And after I read this one, like I mentioned, I read all of them. Let me tell you something real quick if you're not familiar with this series. It is called the Kingsbridge series. And there are more books. You should start with this one. There are more books, but it's not a series in the fact that once you finish one, you need to read more to get the rest of the story. They are basically a series of standalones that all take place in the same location. So each of the books, there's probably 200 to 300 years between them. So you could pick them up in any order you wanted, but I always recommend starting with Pillars of the Earth. I've read them all. I've loved them all, but Pillars of the Earth is his best book in the Kingsbridge series. It's phenomenal. I love it. I've recommended it to so many people and no one has not loved it. It's just a good book. I do want to take a second to talk about The Godfather by Mario Puzo. Everyone knows The Godfather, the movie, because it's an all-timer. And I was so interested about reading the book because typically the book is better than the movie. But you take something like The Godfather and you're like, oh no, it's a pretty good movie. I do think the book is better than the movie. Now, I'm not taking anything away from the movie because it's spectacular and phenomenal and it's a great adaptation. But I just really loved getting into the thought process and the psyche of all these characters, these complicated, layered men. And women, but you know, it's a story about the boys, right? If you haven't read this, but you're a fan of the movie, pick it up. If you've never seen the movie, but you are interested in like quintessential crime boss, family type stories, you should read it. Look how cool this copy is, by the way. Inside, boom, beautiful. So yeah, read The Godfather. It's really good. This last one was a bucket list read for me. It is The Count of Monte Cristo by Alexander Dumas. I say it's a bucket list read because I already loved the story and this was like a mountain to climb that I hadn't ever got there. I had loved the movie. What year did that one come out? You know, the one with Jim Caviezel, like maybe 99, 98, something like that. I loved that movie. I went through like a phase with it. And then, you know, I've seen the Wishbone adaptation when I was a little kid. I'm just like very familiar with the shape of the story, but I had never read it. And so I finally buckled down and I read I did not read from this book, I'm not going to lie. I did mostly audio, but then I also had a paperback version of it that was a little more manageable that I have since taken to a free little library. My favorite thing to do with my duplicate books. But anyway, this guy stays on the shelf. Oh my gosh, I love this book, you guys, okay? Everyone knows that The Count of Monte Cristo has a reputation for being like the ultimate revenge story, and it is. And I'm not going to try to sound like I'm just like, oh, I love big books. My only real complaint with this book is I do wish it was a bit longer, because there were certain periods, so this book takes place over the course of like decades, right? There were sections of it that I just wanted more, like I just wanted to spend more time with those characters or in that setting. But man, it's so well developed. It's so intricate. The characters are just so, what's the word I'm looking for? They just seem, the whole book just seems authentic and lived in, but at the same time, it's such like an out there and fantastic story. I don't know. I just loved it. Okay. It's very entertaining. If you're thinking this book is really old, it's going to be old fashioned, give yourself a couple chapters to get used to the writing style. Even though I do think it's pretty accessible, give yourself a minute to kind of like get used to the fact that this is an old book. And then next thing you know, you're going to be just absolutely sucked in and you're going to enjoy it because it's just one of the coolest books ever. And boop, we're in a new spot. I can already tell I don't like this one as much, but that's fine. That's why I'm doing it this way. And this light, it's not going to work there. We're just practicing though. All right, back to the books. I'm really excited to tell you guys about this one because it's a completed trilogy. I started it in 2023 and he is just cranking out books. So it's all done. It is the Locke Institute trilogy by A.R. Witham. This is the first book. It is called The Crimes of Ricker Flynn. It goes Crimes of Ricker Flynn, then the Trial of Ricker Flynn, and then the Execution of Ricker Flynn. Now, this is a part of a series that goes like this. It's a standalone, a trilogy, and then a standalone. Now, he's written them all to where they can all be picked up and enjoyed on their own. I still recommend, if you're going to read some A.R. Witham, you got to start with The Legend of Blackjack. Now, you do not have to start there. He, so graciously and smart, wrote the trilogy to where you can just start with book one of the trilogy. This guy right here. Anybody can pick it up and just start where they want to. I just really like The Legend of Blackjack, and I feel like you wouldn't have the same connection to this world, the characters, the animal companions, the ancient weapons, all that kind of stuff. I just feel like you're going to have a better time if you've read The Legend of Blackjack. That's my opinion. But he said he wrote this to where you could just start it right away and any information that you need is woven in naturally. I'm sure that is the case. It's just hard to imagine not having information that you already have. Does that make sense? Anyway, this trilogy is what we're talking about right now, though. I loved it. The best way to explain the way he writes this series specifically, it takes everything you love about middle grade. See, I'm not the biggest YA fan, but I do enjoy middle grade books because, I don't know, there's just perfect elements of found family and adventure. And like, this is a portal fantasy. You don't see that very often in adult fantasy. And it's so well paced and it's an easy read where you don't have to turn your mind off. Like, this is still going to require your brain, but it's just something that's accessible and fun to read. Each page is fun, okay? It takes the things we love, those things, from middle grade, but puts them in a very adult setting. This is not a book for kids. This is not a trilogy for kids at all, okay? It has a lot of very grim, very dark situations that these characters get in, to the point where I was like, Andy, what's wrong with you, dude? Okay, this book's messed up. In the best way, okay? I loved it because, like I said, it blended the things I love about adult fantasy and then the things I really miss sometimes from middle grade. The dialogue, this is where this man shines. He is hilarious, and the dialogue is so funny and witty, but not... Sometimes you're like, you're not a comedian. This isn't a comedy, okay? It doesn't make you feel uncomfortable with a comedy, but it makes you genuinely laugh because it just feels natural and it's just so fun to read. So, huge recommendation. Like I said, all three of these books are out. I've read them all and I am a huge fan. So, this is one that I picked up in 2023 and you guys missed me talking about it, but I've got to make up for it now because I love it. Speaking of things I love, you guys know that I stand for Memory, Sorrow, and Thorn. I absolutely love it. It's one of my favorite fantasy series ever. So I was a little hesitant to start the follow-up series, which is called The Last King of Osten-Ard, because sometimes it's like, I don't know, do we need that? Like, it was already kind of a perfect trilogy. Do we need more? Yes, we did need more. So I'm not going to say that this follow-up series, The Last King of Osten-Ard, I'm not going to say that it's better than Memory, Sorrow, and Thorn, but it might be better than Memory, Sorrow, and Thorn. So if you're familiar, this series takes place about 30 years after the ending events of Memory, Sorrow, and Thorn. And it just tells the story I never knew I needed. You're with a lot of familiar people that you met in the first trilogy. So you're familiar with the lands and the kingdoms and the locations and the magic and the people. But what he does that's amazing is he just takes what you knew and loved and what he took so many pages to carefully craft. He took what he has established and just exploded it, and every single little crumb is good. He took the world building and just took it from a 10 to 100. It's just amazing. There's 4 of these. I loved each of them. Maybe a quibble here, maybe a quibble there. No book is perfect, but this series to me is basically perfect, to the point where I'm going to consider Memory, Sorrow, and Thorn and The Last King of Osten-Ard. It really should be pitched like a 7-book series at this point, because I can't imagine leaving it off with just Memory, Sorrow, and Thorn. I was so blown away. I had so much fun with it. I'm holding up here Empires of Grass, which is book 2. The first one you would read is called The Witchwood Crown. The reason I'm holding this one up, though, is just because it's really beautiful and I love this cover. So if you're a fan of Memory, Sorrow, and Thorn, but you haven't yet dipped your toes into The Last King of Osten-Ard, you need to do it. Like, stop making excuses, clear the decks. This is worth it. Now, if you've never read Memory, Sorrow, and Thorn, do it. Okay, we're going to transition a little bit out of some books I would recommend to pretty much anybody to some books that I would recommend to pretty much no one. But I loved. R. Scott Baker. This series is called The Prince of Nothing, and book 1 is called The Darkness That Comes Before. You've probably heard the term grimdark thrown around quite a bit in the fantasy community. This is it, okay? This is the grimmest, the darkest, the most depressing, the most disgusting, heaviest, slimiest book I've ever read. 5 stars. 10 out of 10. Do not recommend. What do I mean by that, okay? This is not an easy series to read. First of all, it's kind of just difficult to read. Like, you have to pay attention. It asks a lot of the reader. This is for an active reader, not a passive reader, okay? Just the prose alone, it's dense, it's heavy, it's just a lot, okay? This is a difficult series to read. It's not for, say you haven't read, you're not much of a reader, don't start with this, okay? But also, it's hard to read because it's gross, and because it's sad, and because it's evil, and it's depressing. And I know you're thinking, why would you do that? Why would you ever want to read something like that? And typically, that's really not my bag. Like, I enjoy my grimdark, okay? Joe Abercrombie, like, whatever. I love it. See him right there? Love it. All-time favorites. But this is a level of darkness and, like, nihilism and just, it's next level. But my God, it's so good, you guys. As soon as I finished it, I was like, when can I read that again? And I am trying to rein it in a little bit on the rereads. So I don't know, but I will absolutely be reading this series again. It is very, very dense with philosophical stuff and just dreams and musings and tangents. But there is a story. There is a very straightforward story. Okay, very straightforward is not the right way to put it. But there is a story you're following. A linear beginning, middle, and end, okay? But it's just, there's just so much more in there. And I never thought I would enjoy something like this because, I don't know, it's just not typically my thing to read something quite this hopeless. But I don't know what it was about it. But I absolutely loved it because I was just blown away. I was impressed. I was jaw on the floor, and I couldn't put it down because it's just so well crafted. Similar to Memory, Sorrow, and Thorn, how I said there's 2 series that are adjacent to each other, but I kind of view them all as one. Same thing with this. So this series, like I said, is called The Prince of Nothing, and then this follow-up series is called The Aspect Emperor. And I think the whole series altogether has a name too. Anyway, it doesn't matter. It's all R. Scott Baker, Prince of Nothing, and the Aspect Emperor. I seriously recommend that if you're going to read this, read them as one series because it's not a big time jump between the two series. It's kind of like the immediate follow-up. So again, I kind of wish that those two series could be pitched as one longer series. I think it's 3 and 4 again. I don't really remember if the second follow-up series is another trilogy or if it's 4 books. But I very much so recommend that if you're going to read R. Scott Baker, 2 things. Read them as it's one big series. Don't try to split it up big time because you're going to forget a lot. There's a lot going on in these books. So read it as if the 2 series are one series. And also, after every single book, you've got to go to YouTube and watch the videos that Mark does. He has a channel called Slowly Read, and he has spoiler and non-spoiler videos for every book in this series. And so as soon as I would finish a book, I would go watch the non-spoiler video first, and then I'd watch the spoiler video. And I truly believe that doing this really enhanced my experience. Because not only did he do a good job of recapping, he did a good job of clarifying some things I had questions about, and his excitement just made me like that much more excited about it. So I'm going to link his videos here, or in the comments or something. But those 2 things, I would recommend reading them relatively close together, reading the series as it's all one big series, and you have to watch Mark's videos. And also, if you're reading them, message me. Like, I really, really, really want to chat with these, or chat with people about these, because they're so good, but they're just bizarre. Like, I don't even know how to pitch them. They're just something else, but incredible. Something else I missed doing in 2023 because of all the craziness was making a yearly wrap-up. And 2023 in January, that was the month I read The Sarantine Mosaic by Gavriel Kay, which was my very first experience with Gavriel Kay. It's a duology, and it's amazing, and I loved it. It probably would have been my book series of the year if I had made a recap video of that year. I didn't. I love Gavriel Kay. Pretty much everything I've read from him, which is probably 6 or 7 books at this point, I've loved every single one of them. But we're not talking about the Sarantine Mosaic right now. We are going to talk about the Lions of Al-Rassan. I loved this book, you guys. Oh, so Gavriel Kay is mostly what I'm getting at here. I've read several books from him. I haven't had the chance to really chat about any of them with you guys, and I just want to go on the record for saying I love Gavriel Kay. The way he writes, the way he structures his books, the way just his prose feels in my ears, because of course I'm listening to them on audio. Everything about the experience with these Gavriel Kay books is just magical to me. Now, speaking of magic, if you're looking for heavy magic in your fantasy, these are not it. This feels more like a historical fantasy book with some light fantasy elements, and it's in a world that is not Earth, but historically it does feel somewhat Earth adjacent. So, whatever his flavor of fantasy is, it works for me, okay? I absolutely loved this book. Again, I'm not going to get into details, what it's about, but man, it just Gavriel Kay in general. He's just a magician. He's a wordsmith, and you should try one of his books out because it's hit or miss for people. Either you're going to love it or it just may not be your thing. But I'm going to go down record of saying that if you're going to try one to see if you like it, out of all the ones I've tried so far, I think you should start here with the Lions of Al-Rassan. All right, this is our last spot. I can't tell what I think. First of all, imagine there's some like really cool artwork right here. I have something ordered. I'm so excited about it. It's not here yet. Another reason I almost didn't film this video. So dumb, right? Anyway, imagine there's some visual interest here, because that's the only thing that makes me think that this spot might be a dud, is that it's boring. But is it casual and comfy and cozy? Or is it like a waste not to film in front of the big book wall? Like, what's the point of having them displayed like that if they're not going to make the frame, right? I don't know. You guys let me know what you think. I may just kind of keep them all in the mix. Anyway, let's talk about books again. For my next one, you know it's good when I don't have a physical copy to show you, simply because I'm loaning my physical copy out. Again, I have force-fed this book to so many people, and every single one of them has come back not just liking it, but like loving it. It's Demon Copperhead by Barbara Kingsolver. I read this one in 2024, and I have not stopped thinking about it or talking about it ever since. I gave it to my brother. He read it twice in a row. I gave it to my husband, who loved it, my father-in-law, my sister-in-law, my friend's boss, several people from the book community, and it's always a hit because it's so damn good. Now, this book is depressing. It's sad. It's heavy. It's real life. Like it's a novel, but you know what I mean? Like this boy that this book is about, he is real somewhere. He exists somewhere. It is about the effects of the drug epidemic in like the Appalachian Mountains. It takes place in like 1999, West Virginia. Whew-wee. I don't read a ton of like literary fiction, but when I do, I make sure to pick one that's really going to hit. And this is a book that I found on my mom's bookshelves. She apparently read it. I can tell she read it because it had some water damage and coffee stains on it. And my mom was that lady, okay? She like abused her books. So I know she read it. And I was so mad at her because I read this after her passing. And I'm like, why didn't you tell me about this back when you read it? This is the kind of book you tell people about. So this is me doing you a favor and telling you about it. I thought this book was beautiful. I just devoured it because it was just written so well that you couldn't put it down. But then my sister-in-law said it took her weeks to get through it because it's hard to read. It does, I will tell you this much. No spoilers. It ends on a note that doesn't make you want to drive your car off a bridge. Some people hear a book is sad or heavy and they're like, well, I don't want to be depressed. I don't want to like lay in bed for a week afterwards. It's not going to do that. I'm not going to tell you it has a happy ending. I'm not going to tell you it's good, great, everything works out, lives happily ever after. But I'm going to tell you this. It ends on a note of hope. And the whole story is just, it's incredible. So I don't want to give too much away, but it's a sad story about a little boy. And he needs me to be his mom because I love him so much and I could have fixed him. Anyway, read Demon Copperhead by Barbara Kingsolver as soon as possible. And I think this will probably be the last one I talk about today because I think this is getting really long. Out of practice, oh well. Anyway, I feel like I was one of the last people on earth to read this when I read it. But this is the Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. And I loved it. I loved it. I loved it. I loved it. Okay. I mentioned that I like romances, but I don't want like a straight romance book. This is the perfect book for that, okay? It is historical fiction, kind of. Like it's a retelling of the story of Achilles. And the Greek mythology part of it was so well done that it made me immediately want to deep dive back into Greek mythology and like read everything, learn everything. I got the Iliad. I still haven't read it, but I bought it because of this. And it really opened that back up for me because it really brought those aspects, you know, back into my brain and just shone a light on them in the most beautiful way, okay? But the story, under the story, okay? The love story here and just the story of this man's life was perfect. Like this book, as soon as I finished it, I thought I cannot wait to read that again because this is a book I want to experience over and over and over again. Again, I've recommended it to several people since then and they've all felt the same way. What it comes down to for me is not just the content and the story, which alone was worth it, but the way she writes. Madeline Miller writes so beautifully and it just sucked me in and it was lyrical and powerful and emotional and moving without ever feeling like pretentious or overwritten. Man, you guys should read this. I think that's all I'm going to do today. Thank you guys so much for watching if you made it this far. Thank you for my feedback if you plan on leaving any. If you don't like leaving comments on YouTube videos, that's fine. You know how to get a hold of me, guys. I'm on Discord. I'm on Instagram. I just miss chatting with you guys. I miss talking about my books. So thank you so much for watching this. And hopefully I'll get this edited. I'll get back on my groove. And I have a whole list on my whiteboard, which is like literally right here, of videos that I've been dying to make. So stick with me. I appreciate it so much. And hopefully I'll be cranking out some more videos here soon.